Hello, everybody, and welcome to this all-new episode of the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm your host, Monica Moore, and we have a great show for you tonight, including my interview with former Westfield standout and current Denver Bronco Eddie Royal. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio tonight by a couple of the best sports writers from around the region, BJ Kubarulis, a contributor to the Washington Post, Phil Murphy from Digital Sports, and Jason Mackey, also a contributor to the Washington Post. But before we get to all of that, we want to thank the folks that help make our program possible. First of all, our good friends at CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs. Also, special thanks to Craig Sturbutzel and Fat Boy Photos for all the photos that you'll see during tonight's program. Don't forget you can get copies of this program and all the games we broadcast at www.pressboxvideo.com. And check out our website, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com, and our Video Vault feature. You can become a fan of this program on our Facebook page and send us any news, story ideas, comments, or suggestions that you have. Well, first of all, a couple of news and notes to share with you. Congratulations to McLean football standout Riley Biro, who has been offered preferred walk-on status by Virginia Tech. So far this season, he's rushed for over 600 yards and 14 touchdowns. Also, congratulations to Tiffany Vu, the Woodson volleyball player that I've talked about so much this year, will be playing volleyball next year for Virginia Intermont College. The Cobras play in the Appalachian Athletic Conference. Okay, well, let's jump right into football and show you what happened in the Concord District this past week. Lots of exciting games, some upsets to tell you about. So take a look at the rankings there. One that you're definitely going to notice is that Westfield getting the big win this week, and then Centerville defeating Oakton. So let's talk a little bit about this Centerville game, because this is perhaps one that people did not pick. It was homecoming for the Cougars, and Centerville spoiled it behind the arm of Cam Walter. You see there, he has been phenomenal for the past few weeks, and one of his favorite targets is Adam Garrity. You see there, 106 receiving yards. Garrity having a very big game. Warren Denny, another receiver that we talk about for Centerville often, didn't have the numbers, but always a very important player as well for the Wildcats. So guys, Centerville definitely coming up with a big win.
Yeah, Centerville, Phil, is a team that has been starved for a win. I believe that this is the signature win for the Wildcats since Mike Skinner left. And that was over 2 years ago. Skinner, obviously a legend in the northern regions. Coaching ranks, did a great job at Centerville, state titles and such. But the program was on the downswing for a while, even though they would have big recruits come out. They've got some big-name kids now. Cam Walter, just a couple weeks ago in a loss to Herndon, had his coming-out party. 363 yards, 3 touchdowns passing, and a rushing touchdown. This, though, is their signature win of the year.
I agree, BJ, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Cam Walter last week, 20 of 27 passing in the first half, and then follows it up here, 16 of 22 passing for 171 and a score. And as you stated, this is the signature win for this team. It's a very young team. Yes, Cam Walter's a senior, but Chase Walter, sophomore, Ken Eckenham, sophomore. A lot of guys in that defense, Connor Coward, sophomore. Some of their best players are still 10th graders. So I think this is going to be the team. Maybe not this season, but next year, 2010, 2011 Wildcats. You'll see them back on the top of the northern region. And again, on Oakton's homecoming, again, this is their first Concord District win in almost 2 calendar years, and they came against the defending Division VI regional champs.
That was just a shot there of Warren Denny there by fatboyphotos.com. Speaking of Warren Denny, let's watch Warren in action playing a little pitch and catch with the man under center there, Cam Walter.
First, this is Jackson Island going for the fake punt, had the hot read, Chase Walter open out wide, kind of ill-advised, and BJ, call Jimmy Boone cashier because he'll make you pay. Finds Matt Chandler with a 4-yard laser, putting Oakton ahead 7-0 just over 3 minutes into the game. But look at the Walter boys playing so nice. Mama Walter's got to be so proud. Cam to sophomore Chase, 15-yard touchdown connection, makes it 7-7 after 1. Now, second quarter, here's Terrence Kennedy, block that kick, taking it 25 yards back to the crib, putting Oakton down 14-7 at the hands of Kennedy's 25-yard touchdown return for a score. That's your score as we fast forward to the first play of the second half. Jimmy Boone in the shotgun triple option zone read calls his own number, gets busy, but Dan Johnson's the one getting busy recovering the fumble at the Oakton 31-yard line. And just 7 plays later, you mentioned Cam Walter. Yes, great throwing the ball. Also, a capable runner. 17 carries in this game, 79 yards here. Does it himself. He's completely outnumbered on the outside, but ducks his head, jumps between the defense. 5-yard touchdown for Walter. Now Centerville leads Oakton 21-7. And again, BJ, this team, Oakton, was 3 points away from beating Oscar Smith last season in the state tournament. Here, last gasp for Oakton. Jimmy Boone under duress. Ken Eckenham, Tim Pearson combined on the sack. One of 3 fourth-quarter sacks for Scoville. They take it 21-7. Adam Garrity, not pictured in the highlight. 7 catches. He was only targeted 7 times. So every time Cam Walter aimed a pass at him, it was caught. And yes, Warren Denny didn't have the beefy numbers that we're used to, the 10 reception type game. I think Oakton keyed in on taking him out of the equation, but he's still an interception on defense. This kid's a two-way athlete. He's an absolute stud, and he's one of the feature players in this team.
Concord District has been the meat grinder for the last couple of years. You have 4 teams now at 4-4, struggling and fighting over those key power points in a pivotal time in the season. Oakton is up against the ropes, could be knocked out of the playoffs for the first time since I can remember, since I've been doing this. Quickly, what does Oakton have to do to get things back on track?
Well, you look at this team, and they've had basically a 3-year plan. I don't know if it's intentional from Coach Thompson, but they've won the region 2002, 2005, 2008. So every 3 years they have this great regional championship or even state championship caliber team, as you saw in 2005 with Keith Payne. So they just have to cultivate their young talent. Jimmy Boone's only a junior. A lot of young talent out there, and you look at their roster, guys like Sean Schnitzer, all of them will be back. They just have to cultivate their young talent, take their lumps, and Coach Thompson and the staff will have these guys back on track.
Speaking of young talent, let's kick it back to Monica Moore.
All right, so we've told you about the Centerville win. Now we'll take you through another win by a Concord District team. Robinson coming off of their loss last week in non-district competition against Madison. And you see there those 2 running backs that we've talked about so much this season. Robinson had almost 200 rushing yards in this game, a big reason why. Jared Velasquez and Connor Riley. And when you couple them with Matt Zanolato, they are getting the touchdown pass from Low Presti. A huge win for Robinson. And guys, Robinson's definitely looking like a team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with once the postseason starts.
Absolutely, Monica. They've got a couple of stars there for Mark Bendorf's Robinson Rams. Jared Velasquez, this guy has, every time I pick up a box score, it seems like he's got over 100 yards and he has a touchdown this week. This was a big victory for Robinson because they have Oakton and Centerville to finish the season, and those are, as we mentioned, the meat grinder. Most teams there at 4-4, Phil. That's going to be a tough finish for the Rams. Yeah,
they're facing a lot of talent over the last 3 weeks, and they come into this game against Madison, who entered as a top-scoring defense in Division 5, coming off the win over Stonebridge. So all kinds of momentum. Their playoff destiny became secure with that win over Stonebridge last week, but still, they had a lot to play for in this game. They were playing for a first-round home game. Still possible. We'll see how the last couple weeks play out. But Robinson, after the loss last week to Westfield, it's nice to see them bounce back. As Monica said, 198 rushing yards for this team. They've gotten over 200 yards in 6 of the 8 games, and that obviously this is one of them they didn't. They only missed it by 2 yards. But someone I want to talk about, Michael Apresti. This kid's only thrown 1 interception all season. Basically, they have 1 target out wide, so teams know what to shut down. But still, when they need it, he's finding Zanolato, finding Velasquez out of the backfield, giving this offense something of a balance. Yes, these are 2 grinded out styles. You knew you were going to get a combined 80 carries in this game between Madison and Robinson, but it's nice to know when Bendorf's team gets behind or they face a 3rd and long, they can have a capable guy in Lopresti to find Zanolato, who's only a junior.
Robinson with a 21-7 victory over Madison. Mark Bendorf's Rams could be going back to the state tournament. This is a team that has been a perennial power out of the Concord District. Monica, back to you.
All right, well, as usual, BJ joining us in the studio this week. He also had a chance to catch up with 2 of the top players from around the region in the Players Lounge. This week, he's going to be joined by Woodson standouts Connor Riley and James Johnson.
Joining me in the Players Lounge today are 2 special guests from W.T. Woodson. Quarterback Connor Riley, who has torn up the Northern region in the last couple of years, and the running back from the Cavaliers, James Johnson, having a fantastic year coming off of a big performance in a victory this past week against West Springfield. Guys, we will start with West Springfield because this is a team I was at last year's game, and I never thought I would see a high school score like that. 72-47, I believe, was the score. Unfortunately, you guys, 47 points on any other day in football beats anybody except for Bryn Renner and the West Springfield pass-happy Spartans. All right, you had to take it a little bit personal. how was it to get revenge this year in a team that, well, scored 72 points in a playoff game to end your season last year?
It hurt last year. Really killed the team. I mean, we made the playoffs for the first time in 4 years, so that was a good thing. But going out the first game was not good at all. And this game was really a redemption or payback game for them, and that's what sparked our emotional drive for this game.
Wow. Well, we're talking to Connor Riley here, and I want to put some of Connor's numbers in perspective for you. 119 completions, 8 interceptions, 1,589 yards, and 11 touchdowns. And this is a guy that just started playing football, not just varsity football, but football as a sport in his sophomore year. We'll talk to him about that in just a moment. James Johnson having a great year as well. 10 touchdowns, James, but you could have a whole lot more yardage if you guys weren't spreading the ball and maybe throwing it 85 times a game. Tell me a little bit, though, about how having Connor has helped take some load off of you and made things a little easier for you as well.
Well, since the defense is keen on Connor so much, it gives the opportunity for them to spread out the field, and then it makes it easier for the running backs to get the good yardage every play or every chance we get.
Mm-hmm. Now, Connor, you told me before we got rolling here that you had never played football before, and I thought you were talking about just high school football when you said you started your sophomore year. Tell me a little bit about how you got to W.T. Woodson first, and then a little bit about how you started playing football.
My dad's in the military, so we pick up and move every 2 years. I lived in Tennessee my freshman and sophomore year, and we moved here. My dad got a job in the Pentagon, and I'll finish my high school career here, and then they'll pick up and move somewhere else next summer. Playing football here at Woodson was exciting. Came in as the new kid, had to impress everybody, show up that I could play football because it would only be my second year playing. I had learned watching football, college, having my dad talk about it and watching the pros, but I always played backyard or pickup games with my friends, but high school football has been pretty new to me.
Impressive. He's tearing up the northern region in just his third year, and he's going to be playing at Temple, already committed there, so he will follow in the footsteps of another local region product, and Chris Coyer from Oakton took that team to the state tournament. James, state tournament, how does that sound to you as a Cavalier? Here you are going into a final year here to get things done with a good team. I mean, can this team make a run in the state tournament?
I really believe we can. We've been working towards it since the beginning of spring when we started our conditioning and lifting. You know, that's been our goal ever since then. We're just taking it one game at a time, though, not trying to look too far ahead because that's when you slip up.
All right, well, you guys right now are the #1 team in the northern region in power points, 30.125 power points. And, you know, you have to talk about those decimal points because they're so important with the way things play out. Big win over Lake Braddock. I'm sure you're still hearing about it. Was the knee down? Was it not down? How many hate mails and emails did you get about that? Walk me through the play. What'd you see, and what have you seen since on video? And if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to either.
The play was designed to go to the Josh Hogan, number 99. We modeled the play after Tebow when he does the jump pass. Mm-hmm. And James was tired after his 89-yard screen pass. So we put in a B, and he kind of a little nervous. Big game, going for 2 points for the win. And as I got the ball, stepped forward to jump, and B paused a little, stepped on my foot, so it caused me to fall backwards. And I knew Josh would be in the back of the end zone. I just didn't think that it would be that close of a call.
Right.
But the umpire was no farther than 3 feet away, so if I was down, he would have called it.
All right, well, there it is. You guys beat Braddock, and that game has become kind of a big game within the region with kind of the way Braddock has surged and won a lot of games. You guys get a lot of power points from that. So moving forward now, James, what are your expectations of the rest of the season? You guys got a 3-5 Annandale team coming up, but just because they play in the Patriot District, that's the only reason they've got 5 losses. This is hands down, I believe, pound for pound this year, the best district in the state. And 3-5 is still a very good team. How do you try to fend off Annandale, which is going to be hungry for a win?
Yes, they definitely will be hungry. They lost 5 in a row, but we're not going to take them lightly. They hit hard, they play hard. You know, they're not a team to give up right away. You know, so we got to go out like we've been doing this week, preparing well for them, going over every single small thing that we need to correct from last week, and then we'll get a good win out of it.
All right, so if you do win, you roll into the last week of the season with South County coming up, and that will put a guy in in the back there that could be hunting for you there on those interceptions. Andre Simmons is one of the best DBs in the northern region, so that'll kind of will that be somebody you've got to look out for back there, roaming, looking to take one from you?
It'll be a good matchup. I haven't paid much attention to South County's defense. We'll look forward to watching their film Saturday morning.
All right, so truly taking it one game at a time, Coach Trey Taylor would be super proud of you guys. All right, James, if you had to scout Connor in a couple of words, what would you say about Connor? What kind of player is he?
I say Connor is definitely a tough player. If he makes a mistake, don't go out there thinking he'll make another one right away. Go out there thinking that he's going to make that big play. You have to try and prevent that big play from happening. And if he's running that ball, I would definitely go for the legs and not up high because he will run you over.
All right, he will drop a shoulder on you is what you're saying. Big game for you guys this past week. James had 191 yards on 22 carries and 4 touchdowns. Connor, a big game for you as well. Scout James for me. What kind of player is James, and what does he bring to the team?
JJ, you'd have to stack the box. I wouldn't allow 5 in the box or 6 in the box. He's a hard-nosed runner, head down. He'll run you over too. I try and run after James because he plays with me, saying he's better than I am, and we push each other a lot.
Nice. The competitive juice is flowing for the Cavaliers. Guys, want to thank you for joining me in studio. Connor Riley, the quarterback from W.T. Woodson, and James Johnson, the running back from W.T. Woodson, in studio here with me in the Players Lounge. Guys, good luck in the week coming up. Looking for their 6th win in a row against Annandale, and could face off with South County for a huge game at the end of the season in terms of power points and seeding. Guys, good luck. Thanks for joining me in the Players Lounge. Monica, back to you.
Well, we will have more about Woodson's big win over West Springfield later on in the program, including highlights. But let's now take a break from football and talk a little bit about field hockey. We're delighted to be joined by Jason Mackey over with BJ to tell you a little bit about what's been going on with field hockey, some of the top players from this season, and what's been going on in the Northern Region Tournament.
To the Writers Lounge. I'm BJ Kubaroulis, and I'm joined today by Jason Mackey, who is a fellow Washington Post contributor. Jason does a phenomenal job covering the Virginia AAA Northern Region and the rest of the prep landscape in the area for field hockey. We have Jason in studio to talk to us about the Virginia AAA Northern Region Tournament. We're going to flash the bracket up on your screen in just a moment. Jason, you're going to walk us through the best upcoming matchups. We've got the quarterfinals coming up. Some interesting semifinals will come out of that. Oakton, of course, is a team we'll start with right away, a traditional power that has had some changes this year, but nonetheless, here they are in a great quarterfinal matchup.
When you talk about Northern Region field hockey, you have to talk about Oakton. You have to talk about Oakton and the team that they're playing, Langley. The past few years, I mean, those two teams, as you well know, along with your Woodsons, your Lake Braddocks, have been the most they've been the most talented teams. They flat out have. This year, a little bit different for both of these teams. You have 9 wins against 9 wins, and it's 2 teams that nobody really expected to be where they are.
Right.
You know, going into the Liberty Tournament, Langley was a 6 seed, an afterthought. They beat Madison and McLean to get there, and they ended up losing to Fairfax, but still, I mean, a lot of bonus points just for Langley for getting there. And then Oakton, you mentioned the change. Lizzie McManus, the longtime coach there, she steps down, but Kate Rush has done just a phenomenal job getting that team ready to play, and obviously being in the region quarters, evidence.
Talk about the region quarters. Let's jump quickly back into that bracket and talk about some of these interesting matchups. Woodson did, in fact, beat Madison 4-0, and Westfield keeps rolling with a 5-1 victory. Jason, this is a team, in reading your stuff at the Washington Post and WashingtonPost.com, Westfield is a team that just seemed unstoppable to start the year under Coach Terry Toll. Where are the Bulldogs now? Is this a winnable game for them?
Unstoppable again. They're still unstoppable. I mean, if I wasn't getting paid to cover field hockey, I would go anyway. It is an awesome game. I mean, you have 18-1 versus 18-2. Woodson, to add some intrigue, all regular season long, they've been the best team around. Right. And then here we go, the Patriot District Final. South County knocks them off, 2-0 win. Westfield has been absolutely dominant. They've given up, I think, 9 goals all season. They've given up 1 goal since October 1st. They have the best defense, and really this is going to be one heck of a matchup. This is your best quarterfinal matchup out there.
And you talk about South County. This is a team, as you see down there on the bottom of your screen in the bracket. South County defeated McLean 3-0 to make it through to that semifinal where they will face Centerville, a 3-0 winner. So South County, that was an important game for them to clinch that Patriot District top seed. Here they are with a chance to maybe get a little further in the tournament.
Absolutely. They're one of the teams that made it last year. They're one of the teams that everybody expects them to be there. They're in a different half of the bracket now because of that win over Woodson, but nonetheless, they are still very much in it. A tough matchup, though, with Centerville. Centerville, a lot of people look past them, but you look at their record, they're 15-2. Their 2 losses have been to Westfield. They've been 1-goal losses. I've been at both of them. They've played Westfield very tough. If you're playing Westfield tough, you're a good team. You're a very good team.
All right, a couple of more good teams here on our bracket. Let's jump into the final matchup, which will be Chantilly versus Fairfax. Fairfax having a banner year in all of their sports. Changing districts has certainly helped the Rebels. They take a 2-1 overtime victory over traditional power Lake Braddock. Lake Braddock kind of on the downswing this year, but we don't expect that to last for long. Big win for Fairfax as they could make some noise as the perhaps Cinderella of the tournament.
They very well could, and if you're a writer, like the two of us are, this is a writer's dream. Amber Bodoin and Ralph Chapman, the 2 coaches, 2 of the most colorful people, 2 great coaches as well,
right?
But 2 just very outspoken, off the beaten path type coaches, and obviously have their teams ready to play. Fairfax in the second half of the season, they've won 8 of 9 to this point after a streak where they lost 4 of 5. They were really struggling mid-season. Amber made some changes, and things are really looking good for them now.
All right, speaking of looking good, got some players who are the players of the year in each of their respective districts. Let's jump right into those all-district selections. Quickly, Jason, in about 20 seconds on each of these players, what have they meant to their teams?
Wow, Kelsey Grainer, the first thing, she has meant everything. You have 3 big players there, but Kelsey, she really makes it all work for Westfield. She's just invaluable. Megan Dorn has taken a 2-12-2 team a few years ago to obviously what they are 15-2 now. Look at the national district. Kelsey Clark, she's the type of player for WNL that on corner plays, she gets the ball, she's the distributor, she makes all the passes and sort of makes things work. Lauren White, she's taken a team 2 wins last year. They were only 5-11 this year, but a lot of strides, competitive in a lot of games.
All right, let's jump into the Patriot and Liberty District. Woodson taking all of the honors in the new Patriot District where they've seen some new success.
Yeah, Shelly Montgomery is the best player around, and she's sort of undergone a transformation this season. Last year, she was a scorer. Beginning of this year, she was a scorer. She's kind of developed into a distributor. Becky Preston, obviously one of the best coaches around, and then you look in the Liberty, Caitlin Baker, a few scores on McLean, but she's gotten a lot of goals, and Megan Panero from Madison has kept them very much in the hunt.
All right, there is your field hockey update. Want to thank the Washington Post's contributor, Jason Mackey, the field hockey beat reporter for all things field hockey. Check out Jason Mackey online at WashingtonPost.com. Want to thank you, Jason, for joining me in the Writers Lounge, and I'm sure we will call on you for more field hockey updates throughout the rest of the tournament. Back to you, Monica.
All right, well, we will have more about the Northern Region Field Hockey Tournament next week as the tournament progresses. But now let's segue back into football. I told you we have more about that Woodson win, but let's take a look at what the standings look like after week 8. So you see there, Woodson, of course, as you know, got the win. Lake Braddock, South County, and T.C. Williams coming up with the victories this week in the Patriot District. But let's talk a little bit more about this Woodson-West Springfield game because everyone expected for this one to be an offensive shootout, and you see the score there, the numbers, you've heard a little bit about it, and James Johnson, who joined BJ earlier in the program, 190 rushing yards. You see a great picture of him there, and guys, he had a touchdown in every single quarter. Certainly tons of great running backs in the region, and James Johnson is very much among them.
Yeah, Monica, you talk about running backs in the region, and surprise, a guy from Falls Church is leading the Northern Region, Marcus Hughes, who was in the Players' Lounge with us a few weeks ago. But James Johnson, on the other hand, another one of those quality backs, he would have the Hughes-like numbers if he were getting Hughes-like carries. Marcus Hughes, 205 carries. James Johnson is just as good, but there's 3 to 4 other guys on that team that have at least 200 yards rushing, Phil.
Yeah, not only rushing, I mean, we look at this team's passing, and Connor Riley on this night, 12 of 14 passing for 144 yards, touchdown, and a pick. So only one of his 14 pass attempts hit the ground. To his 3 primary targets, James Johnson, Paul Fridley, and Mike Lee, he was 10 for 11 passing. So lethally accurate quarterback. You have that kind of quarterback. You have Bertram Gampa, James Johnson, and even Jonathan Stokes, who got 20 carries, which was the team high against T.C. Williams 2 weeks ago. Yeah, they got a ton of options, which is great not only for this season, but in the future. Guys can get hurt. They'll be okay no matter where they go in the playoffs.
You know who was okay this week?
Who's that?
The W.T. Woodson Cavaliers. They were okay, and their win over West Springfield Gym hit me with those highlights. Here they are.
First quarter, they weren't okay. Dan Collins gets the give. 4-yard touchdown run for Collins, but West Springfield running backs only had 9 total carries. Of their 32 rushes, Matt Prokop had 23 of them. Scored at this point, John McConnell, 41-yard field goal. BJ, the only kicker better than him is a chicken kicker at Domino's. This made it 17-7 in favor of West Springfield, but just 4 plays later, there's no I in team, but there is an I in win. There may not be one in James Johnson, but he's going the distance. 65-yard touchdown run for Johnson made it 17-14.
He's going to run that all the way to Domino's.
Right over, I don't even know where there's one, Pan Am maybe. 65-yard touchdown run. But just 2 plays later, James Hogan reads the seam, and he reads at a 12th grade level. 37-yard interception return for a score. Also had a 37-yard interception return for a score against Chantilly. More on him later. But for now, here's Matt Prokop dialing up Lee Gleason, 7-yard touchdown run with 4:44 left in the half, putting West Springfield back on top 24-21. However, after Patrick Bolger fumble, forced James Hogan fumble recovery, here's Connor Riley to Colin Dempsey. 28-24 at the half. But West Springfield defense stepping up big in Joey DeSantis' absence. Peyton Davey, he's not doing too much tonight. He's just heading back to the crib. Cuts inside the quarterback there. 28-yard interception return for a score. 31-28 in favor of Sparty. But James Johnson already touchdown in the first quarter. Second quarter is not to mention. Here's his 10-yarder in the third quarter. And then in the fourth, Johnson again. He's got to bounce. 30-yard touchdown run. He finished 20 carries, 190 yards, 4 TDs for this team. James Hogan, someone I also want to talk about, the linebacker. He had a team-high 12 tackles last week against T.C. Williams. Interception, fumble force, fumble recovery there. Here, interception return for touchdown, fumble recovery. This kid's one of the leading tacklers on the team and one of the best defensive players on a defense that kind of gets lost in the shuffle of the region,
right,
even though they're only 3rd in points allowed in Division 6. So one of the top statistical defenses in the region for a team that's 7-1, a team that's likely to be the number 1 seed if they win out in the Division 6 playoffs. We'll touch on the power points later to see where they really fall, but that guy's having a great season, anchoring a very talented, very athletic defense, and he even adds on offense as a tight end.
41-yard field goal is still the most impressive thing for me out of that highlight reel.
In the rain, too.
It
wasn't a dry field.
Wasn't a dry field. You know what's better than a chicken kicker?
What's that?
When I kick it back to Monica Moore.
All right, so that was one of the games that we were very excited about coming into this week. Another one was Robert E. Lee's game against South County. It was homecoming for the Lancers, and once again, homecoming proving unkind because you see their South County getting the win. The good news for Lee was that Augustus was back, but South County and their defense was very solid. That team has only allowed 99 points coming into week 9. Guys, the South County defense, I'm very impressed with them.
Yeah, well, anytime you can hold Augustus to a low output and kind of stifle him. But South County's defense is no secret. Andre Simmons, the best safety DB in the county, maybe in the state, going to Vanderbilt. We've talked about him quite a bit. Augustus a little bit banged up, so maybe that's why they were able to hold him back a little bit. And they are holding him back, Phil, as they will continue to try to win out if they can. They've already in the playoffs. They've got one of the best players in the state. Why force the issue?
Yeah, they were fortunate enough to win 5 games to start the season and really get themselves some breathing room in the Division 5 playoff picture. Drizzy, yes, he played, but far from 100%. Only had 7 carries, I believe only 2 of which were after halftime. Finished with 12 yards, but that's not to take anything away from this defense. BJ, as you mentioned, Andre Simmons, outstanding safety. And Anthony Carabali, he's been spending so much time in defending in offensive backfield, he should be paying rent. The guy is an absolute savage at defensive tackle, and he's a freak athlete, strongest kid on the team. Pound for pound, Coach Bendorf told me, and he weighs 240 pounds, so it's not like he's a small guy. We check out the highlights in this game. South County comes in. They're already up 3-0 on a field goal by Edwin Cartade at the 7:48 mark, but here's Andre Simmons' cousin, C.J. Lewis, gets a tunnel screen, and later dudes, 40-yard touchdown reception for Lewis. However, outside of this drive, Lee only had 40 total passing yards on 5 of 15 passing. But ensuing kickoff, BJ, Andre Simmons, does he return kickoffs to put the team in good field position?
I believe he does.
Every day I do. 41-yard kickoff return for Simmons, giving them the ball at the Lee 45-yard line. The ensuing drive next quarter by rule, they change sides. It's okay, it's in the rule book. Shotgun snap goes to Aaron Andrews. He rolls right. And Oniemi Ayobote is living vicariously through himself. Diving 6-yard touchdown reception puts South County back on top, 10-7, and that's where the defenses took over. Lee, this is their last chance. Donovan Taylor, who took spots for Augustus, drove it inside the 9 on a 20-yard run. Oh, snap. Snap goes over. Jasmine Williams' head. Andrew Rector, the sophomore for South County, recovers it, and that's your final, 10-7. 2 minutes into the second quarter, this is a 10-7 game, and then the defense has just shut it down. Eric Wright for Lee played out of his mind. And then Carabali and Simmons really anchored that defense, where they were the spine in the center of that defense.
Great to see Aaron Andrews back. I know he's been back for a few weeks. What do you do with Evan Beal, though, a guy that threw for 500 yards throughout the season? We'll see how that continues to develop. He's such a big target. He's such a great athlete, a great baseball player as well. So they will see what they can continue to do. Pete Bendorf with a wealth of talent, good problem to have. Monica, back to you.
Well, guys, continuing along with the theme, BJ, you just talked about Aaron Andrews being back, Drizzy Augustus back. Another player that was back this week was Joe Hargrove for TC Williams. I talked about him a lot during the beginning of the season, what a loss that was for the Titans. Well, he was back against West Potomac, and TC coming out with the big win. Now, Hargrove came off the bench, but he set a school passing record of 297 yards. He also tied a school record, guys, of 4 passing touchdowns.
What can you say about a guy like Joe Hargrove? This is a guy that's waited his turn. He's been injured all year. TC Williams has, I don't want to say struggled in his absence. They do have a losing record. However, they have had some very big wins this year. Of course, the one over Oakton shocked the northern region and really let us know what to expect this year, which was just an unpredictable, volatile kind of each week when you pick up the box scores, you don't know what to expect. Hargrove totally changes TC Williams' chances going into this week.
And let's not forget, they beat Oakton, they played Braddock close, they played Woodson close, so it's no surprise that this team is talented. And they return a kid that Coach Randolph thought was going to be maybe the starting quarterback, the number 1 quarterback. Doug Murphy, also very successful in the preseason, so it's kind of a quarterback battle. Hargrove was winning that, gets hurt, and yeah, it's nice to see this team come back. But we get to the highlights. This is a high-octane game in the rain. I guess we don't have highlights from this game. Cortez Taylor started off with the kickoff return, but something I need to mention, Daryl Copeland, West Potomac senior, 245 receiving yards on 7 receptions and 4 touchdowns. And again, that's in a torrential downpour. Manuel Benitez provided the game-winning field goal with 3:45 left. TC gets a big win.
All right. You don't need highlights when you have Monica Moore.
Well, now it is time for our Verizon Fios Game of the Week. This week it was Westfield Chantilly, and this is a great rivalry. In fact, it was one of the games featured in the Great American Rivalry Series. So let's show you what happened as these two teams squared off against each other. Danny Finyak here, you're going to see him connecting with Gary Turner for the touchdown. Turner, of course, a big touchdown the preceding week as well, and you see Finyak's arm there, but the interception by the Chargers. Chantilly, I heard before the game that one of the big things they were focusing on was tackling. Another thing was balance. Great touchdown pass there to Chris Martin. Martin had a great first half. We've talked about him a lot on the program. He's one of the Chantilly leaders. And here you're going to see Carson Romine once again. Chantilly really trying to look towards their passing game. Chris Martin getting the pass as well, but balance was important. They wanted to do some rushing, a little passing, and here you see the James Crossett field goal. Crossett had a huge game. That field goal was very important. You'll see a punt later on in the game there, a fumble looks like, and then here Carson Romine, again, that arm. Romine hasn't gotten as much publicity as some of the other quarterbacks. As you see the rain picking up during the second half, it became an issue there. Chantilly getting a little lucky, but here you'll see not as lucky. Westfield eventually coming up with it. Finyak, the game-winning touchdown to Aaron Scoville. You see Scoville just pushing ahead there to get the touchdown. Chantilly trying to answer. There you see a great run in the tackle. That was the big thing that they were focusing on. Field goal goes wide. Chantilly cannot tie it up. Westfield wins this one 17-14. Aaron Scoville with a huge night. He was the favorite target of Danny Finyak throughout the entire game. Chris Martin there, most of those receiving yards during the first half. Carson Romine with a very respectable 182 passing yards and a touchdown, but no question about who our player of the game was. I got to catch up with Aaron Scoville to talk with him a little bit about that game-winning touchdown that you just saw.
Aaron, you guys are playing Chantilly tonight, a huge rival. How does it feel to beat them?
Feels awesome. Really, no words to really describe it. Just big, hard-fought win, and just came out here fired up and luckily got the W. Worked hard in practice all week, coming off a short week, and just really glad that we came out with the win.
Now, you didn't just get the W, you got the game-winning touchdown. Can you tell us what was going through your mind as you scored that touchdown?
Well, we called a play that has been working the whole game. for us and is getting us 5 or 6 yards each play, and just ran my route, caught the ball, and got hit a few times, but just we worked in practice when you're in the red zone, just find that extra ounce to get it in there for the touchdown. So what I did.
Now the rain really started picking up during the fourth quarter. How did that impact the offense?
I mean, we just had to run the ball a little bit more than we would like to, and just run the ball basically.
Now I know before the game, Eddie Royal came and spoke with you guys. What did he say, and how great was it to have a former Westfield great back tonight?
Oh, it was awesome. Everybody's eyes just lit up when he walked in the locker room. Everyone was just really ecstatic about it. And basically what he said was you just got to fight and give every ounce you got in your play, and have every play like it's your last play, and just never give up and always fight.
Well, great advice from Eddie Royal and a great win from you guys tonight.
Thank you.
Well, as I was just talking about with Aaron in that clip there, you saw Eddie Royal was at the Westfield game. They retired his jersey in a great ceremony. We have some highlights to show you.
Oh, by the way, he had 2 incredible touchdowns the other day. Eddie Royal, welcome back to Westfield and your hometown roots. In honor of Eddie's stellar football career, tonight we are retiring his Westfield jersey. Football fans, please welcome your former Bulldog, Eddie Royal! Eddie's accompanied tonight by Tim Thomas and Coach Urbanic. Here's a little bit about Eddie. Before I do that, Eddie's also here with his mother Pearl, his brother Chris, and his brother Dale. Eddie's got a short list of accomplishments we want to talk about tonight. He received the All-America honors from Prep Star and Super Prep, who named Royal the top college player in the state of Virginia. While a senior at Westfield High School, Eddie led his team to an undefeated season record 14-0 in the Virginia Division VI AAA State Championship. Eddie's high school stats included a meager 93 career receptions, 1,825 receiving yards, 22 receiving TDs, 2003 All-Met Player of the Year, 2003 First Team All-State Wide Receiver and AAA Player of the Year, First Team All-District, First Team All-Region, First Team All-Region 2002 and 3, 2003 Northern Region Player of the Year. When he takes off his Superman cape, he tries to relax. Westfield is proud of how Eddie Royal has represented Westfield pride. He's continued in his professional career while playing for the Denver Broncos. Eddie, Westfield is proud to honor you this evening as we retire your jersey, number 5, to commemorate all that your fine character embodies for the students of this school. And for every student who walks the halls in the future, you will be remembered. Eddie Royal, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will turn towards the scoreboard end of the field for just a moment, we also are dedicating tonight at the fence, if you would, you may be playing on Sundays, but we've got you here forever.
So during the ceremony, you got to hear some of Eddie Royal's accolades. There are just way too many to list. We've got some there. You see his career at Westfield, Virginia Tech, and now with the Denver Broncos. I got to talk a little bit with Eddie about his trip home to Westfield High School.
I'm standing here with former Westfield standout Eddie Royal. Now, Eddie, you had a very storied career here at Westfield. Tonight you have your jersey retired, number 5. How special is that to you?
Man, it's a great feeling, to come back here. This is home, I got so many memories here. It was a great feeling to be able to share this moment with all the fans here and all of my family.
Now, you had over 1,800 receiving yards while you were here, 22 receiving touchdowns. What was the highlight for you of your career here at Westfield?
I had to say winning the state championship because my junior year we came up short. And that hurt. We took it hard, so we worked extra hard over that summer to come out and win it, and we did, and it was a great feeling.
Obviously, you're already having a great career in the NFL. What are the big things you're focusing on this year?
Just taking it one game at a time and trying to do my job, not trying to do too much, and just continue to come out and do whatever I can to help our team win.
Now, your Bulldogs are down at halftime. I know you're a great player. I'm going to ask you to be a coach for a second. What do you think your Bulldogs need to do during the second half to beat these Chargers?
Don't panic. Just stay patient. Keep doing what they're doing and stay with the game plan. They got a good game plan. We just we got to take care of the ball, do the little things, but we'll be fine.
Well, Eddie, thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So again, a special night for Westfield and Eddie Royal. Well, now, guys, let's go on to the Liberty District.
All right, Monica, you heard Eddie Royal talking a lot about keeping it simple, doing the little things to help you win. That's what a lot of these teams are doing to stay atop the Liberty District standings. Let's jump right into that. And Stonebridge, they do the little things well, running that Wildcat offense, although around here we call it the single wing. Mickey Thompson, the guru, a couple years ahead of his time. 7-1 are the Bulldogs, coming off that loss to Madison. South Lakes, Phil, a team that has had some recent success.
You look at Stonebridge's schedule closing out the season. They have McLean and South Lakes weeks 9 and 10. Those are the two teams that are closest to them for that district championship, so they'll be able to defend their district title even though they lost to Madison 2 weeks ago.
All right, you heard about Byro earlier, going possibly to Virginia Tech to walk on. Still has some options. We'll see what he does with that. McLean having a banner year riding Byro. Madison, Fairfax, Langley, Marshall, and Jefferson to round out your Liberty District standings. You mentioned Fairfax. I was at the game. We've got some highlights. Phil, Jack Beckert had the game of his life. 153 yards, 4 touchdowns. Let's jump right into it, and we'll talk a little bit about what Beckert was able to accomplish.
Yeah, and here's his favorite target, BJ. Dropping back, 3-step drops, find Alex Young, and Young's got 99 problems. That hitch ain't one. 7-yard touchdown for Young to start it off. 11-yard touchdown to start it off. Put Fairfax on the board, 7-0. But we're going right back to Alex Young. BJ, first 2 games, only 2 catches for 7 yards for Young, and then he friended me on Facebook. Since 29 catches, 476 yards, 9 touchdowns.
You're a good friend.
Direct correlation, I think so. 13-0 after a failed pat. But McLean driving back down, getting in position, and Will Hunt drills it from 31 yards away. Straight on kicker, makes it 13-3. BJ, you were at this game, you saw. I had him for 396 rushing yards. You had for somewhere in that hood. Here's Marcus Bailey, 55-yard dash. Finally gets caught from behind by Chase Mills at the 6-yard line. But just 2 plays later, Jack Becker would finish it off himself with the 1-yard touchdown run. He finished on the day, 5 carries, 48 yards, and that score. Now, first play of the second half, your score currently 20-3. But Anton Burns is going to expand that a little bit. Moving along, nothing to see here. 74 yards for Burns going all the way to the house. Anton Burns on the day. He had 14 carries, 103 yards. That score cutting it back at the end, 27-3 Fairfax. But ensuing kickoff going to Byro. BJ, you talked about him. Monica talked about him getting the preferred walk-on status to Tech, which is good to see because talented kid, injured last year, a little bit banged up this year, but because he averaged 36.5 yards or carries per game, 36.5 carries per game for the first 5 games, he would punch it in 2 plays later, cutting the Fairfax lead to 27-10. But here, Beckert's 3rd touchdown pass, buying time, and his arms writing checks that hit that pass can cash. Marcus Bailey, 3-yard touchdown reception, 34-10 as we head to the 4th quarter. Then it's going on ice. Beckert, 7 completions, 4 for touchdowns.
How do you get that open?
Great. Well, I mean, you have to have Patrick Bean's kind of athleticism and a little bit of a broken play. No one home on defense. And I like it when no one's home, BJ. You compete with the door open. 24 yards, Beckert to Beam, 41-10 to Fairfax, putting it away. Marcus Bailey, 8 carries, 110 yards, touchdown in addition to the receiving touchdown. here going 35 yards, 48-10. And BJ, Fairfax was not done. This team in the third quarter outgained them 197-7. Similar stats in the fourth quarter. And William Moore, you sir, on the Fairfax Sports Report, 47 yards to the house. Fairfax runs away with it, 55-17. Byro does get 2 touchdowns, but limited, as you can see, to just 53 rushing yards.
I tracked Fairfax throughout this game. I saw him come off of that play more into the sideline. His teammates were patting his helmet. And it was just a laugher, literally. I mean, this is a team that at half was up by 10, but here they come out in the second half, and they really handled their business. Chris Haddock doing a great job, certainly waited his turn there in coaching Fairfax through some pretty tough years. So we'll see. Fairfax statistically are alive in the playoff race. Speaking of playoffs, Stonebridge is certainly no slouch. Monica, the Bulldogs take a big victory.
Yeah, Stonebridge coming off of that loss to Madison. Langley, though, almost sending this one to overtime. With 5 seconds left, they have the field goal opportunity, but it's Spencer Rosatano who blocks the attempt. Of course, Rosatano was the hero against Westfield earlier this season. And, guys, the other player that had a huge day for the Bulldogs was Marcus Harris.
Yeah, Marcus Harris, 208 yards rushing and a touchdown. They win by 3. Langley was a team that started the season with 3 straight losses. Everybody thought they might go over on the season. Good for them to pick up their season and come back and fight hard against the Stonebridge team that has been a traditional power.
Yeah, and you kind of knew this was coming for Langley ever since that game against Chantilly when they had the 5 interceptions in the first half. Were able to get that halftime lead. This team is very young, though. They had to replace 3 3-year starters in their offensive backfield. So it kind of goes to say this team will get better as the season goes on. Marcus Harvey missed some time with being in that walking boot. He wasn't even on the field when they beat Hernan, but coming back, yes, they're going to give Stonebridge a great game. But Spencer Rosatano, the kicker on kicker crime, he hits a 22-yard field goal and then blocks the would-be game-tying field goal. Second time this season he's blocked that kick.
All right, speaking of kick, I'm going to kick it right back to Monica Moore for some national news.
All right, so closing out with the National District this week, let's take a look at what the National District looks like after Week 8. You see there Hayfield, Edison, Falls Church all getting big wins. So, I'm sorry, not Falls Church getting a big win. Falls Church defeating Mount Vernon. So, guys, let's talk a little bit about this Edison victory. Edison coming up with a huge win after falling to Falls Church.
Yeah, Edison bounces back, although Washington and Lee gave them all they could handle. Levi Barber with 3 touchdowns bouncing back for Edison. Edison's had a weird up and down year. They beat Oakton and then they fall to Falls Church. Just a very weird year, but such is life in the northern region.
Yeah, and something Coach Lewis told me, his team, for whatever reason, just struggles when it's wet out. They have trouble at practicing at games, throwing the ball in the rain. So looking at this game, it was scheduled to rain. It did rain, and the game was on a turf field, so you knew it was going to be played either way. But as we go to these highlights, you'll see they fared pretty well in the wet conditions. Here, Washington lead back to punt in the first quarter. The score is tied at 0. It's a scoreless game, but Malcolm Willis is changing all of that. BJ gets outside, and boom goes the dynamite. 47-yard kick return for a score for Malcolm Willis, putting Edison up 7-zippy.
What you talking about, Willis?
But coming back, BJ, pass breaking up is hard to do, especially when Levi Barber's throwing it like this. Greg Smith, one-handed grab at the goal line, pulls it in, 22-yard catch, 14-0 Eagles. And this is the Edison team we thought we'd see all year, especially in this district. Now they're continuing to pile on early in the second quarter, 4th and 10. It's dramatic, but America loves drama. Jamison Hart from Levi Barber. Barber on this day, 223 yards passing, including that 37-yard score to Jamison Hart. But power eye for Washington Lee coming back. One of Anthony Taylor's 3 touchdowns on the day. He finished 20 carries, 7 yards, 3 trips to the promised land.
One of the most underrated players in the northern region.
Absolutely. Doing a great job filling in for Charlie Fuller. He was there everything last year, and that kid's only a junior, so he's coming back. But Levi Barber, 223 passing yards, 3 touchdowns on 8 of 14 in the wet conditions. Third one here going to Reed Moran. Edison pulled away in the end. They take it 32-23. As you can see, Willis touched punt return for a score. Angus Harper bounced back 114 yards.
A little versatility. The Eagles showed that they can play in a little bit of that wet weather, some struggles, but they were able to bounce back. Speaking of teams that are trying to bounce back, Hayfield currently playing without their coach, Billy Pugh, who is in the intensive care unit at Inova Hospital in Fairfax. He is being moved today to Mount Vernon to start his rehabilitation process. He suffered a massive stroke. I talked to assistant coach Roy Hill, who will be taking over that team and did so this week in a big victory. So the first head coaching victory for Coach Roy Hill, and we're certainly pulling for Coach Billy Pugh.
Absolutely.
So you talk about this victory for Hayfield. Is this one when Anton McCallum shows up for 5 touchdowns and really gets this team a much-needed victory?
Yeah, and we'll talk about Anton McCollum a little bit when we get to our top 5 plays segment momentarily. Just a little preview of that. But yeah, McCollum, first 4 carries went 152 yards, first 5 carries went for 152 yards and 4 touchdowns. So yes, absolute freak athlete. And he came out and had his best running game of the season to this point. So yeah, BJ, I mean, this Hayfield squad, very athletic, very dangerous.
Want to mention a guy that we recently had in the Players Lounge, Marcus Hughes from Falls Church. Over 300 yards rushing.
Sir.
And I suspect, sir, as you are teasing your top 5 plays, I hope my boy Marcus made it into those plays. If not, you and I might do a round or 2 here at the end of the game. But Falls Church, 42-32 over Mount Vernon, which is still looking for its first win of the season. For now, we're going to kick it to Monica Moore.
All right, so we've told you what happened this past week. Now let's take a look at our top 10 rankings. You see Woodson there on top for the second week in a row. South County, they're moving up a little bit from the 6th place position to the number 4 position after defeating Lee. And Chantilly back in the rankings after being absent for a couple of weeks. Very impressed with them, guys, against Westfield. But Phil, I know you spend a lot of time every week looking at all of that footage, so why don't you take us through your top 5 plays of the week?
All right, if my sleeves weren't buttoned, I'd roll them up. Top 5 plays of the week. A ton of great performances this week. We talk about all the different games in the region. And actually, there were 2 more games this week, actually 1 more game because 2 teams played out of the region. So 16 games to choose from. I watched every play. These are the 5 best plays and performances of the week. Kick things off, number 5 with a 5 spot. Here's our boy, Anton McCollum, running a triple option. And just like the chocolate and the Neapolitan ice cream, the first option is the best. Anton McCollum keeps it himself, 30-yard touchdown run there. He, in this game, in the first quarter, in fact, he had 4 carries for 117 yards, 3 scores in the first quarter. He's like a human cheat code. His first 5 carries go for 152 yards, 4 touchdowns. Hayfield takes it. They're up 35-7 at the half. They take it over Stewart, 49-21, a very dangerous team. They're currently 4th in the Division 5 playoff picture. Here's Anton McCollum again, just in case you didn't believe me, at a 35-yard run in the second quarter. This put him ahead 28-7.
Right there on the L1.
L1, that is the button putting them ahead. Now here, Daryl Copeland for West Potomac, senior wide receiver, 7 catches, 245 yards, 4 trips to the promised land. BJ, that calls for a sports guy chest bump from Daryl Copeland. But not enough for West Potomac, despite his 2 touchdowns you'll see here. This one on the second play of the second half. He had a play on this touchdown on the second play of the first half, touchdown on the second play of the second half. Daryl Copeland, 4 touchdowns in the rain. You can barely see out the window there in the press box for the TC film videographer. Daryl Copeland, great game. Colin Mathewson finding him on all those touchdown passes. Yes, Joe Hargrove set the school record for yards in the game, tied it for touchdown passes, but Daryl Copeland getting the love in the plays of the week. Now, number 3, BJ, we're not going to have to arm wrestle. We're not going to have to slug things out.
That's good for you.
Marcus Hughes, he had a little tug of war. He had a little free throw shootout. He had a field day, is what he had.
That's what he did.
33 carries, 300 yards. In fact, he had a 67-yard touchdown run called back for an illegal shift. So it was a play that would have counted. The illegal shift didn't disrupt the play. Good call by the officials, but it's one of those unnecessary penalties.
This is the potato sack right here.
That is actually the 85-yard dash, which he won.
Part of the field day.
3 touchdowns for him. Now, Michael Niebrick, 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns, but this was just stupid good. Michael Niebrick, his strategy is two steps: show up and dominate. Takes it 57 yards, should be sacked, breaks it outside, and he's going 57 yards to the promised land. He finished 19-30 passing, 239 yards, 3 scores, 11 carries, 68 yards, 3 scores. Lake Braddock, they do trail the all-time series to Annandale 20-13, but they take this game big, 48-3. But number 1 play of the week, watch the left outside linebacker Charles Blanks on this against Whitefield. Tips it. Oh,
wow.
Did we just become best friends? Yup. Tip interception from from Charles Banks to Eric Cardillo, 16-yard interception return for a score, part of a 27-point fourth quarter for Yorktown.
Well done, Phil. Back to you, Monica.
All right. Well, as you know, we pick games every week, and so let's show you the games that we picked from last week and what happened. You see there, going 5 for 5 there, so I'm very happy with that. Hopefully I'm peaking at the right time with picking these games. So you see the standings there. BJ and Paul tied with the lead, so we'll show you the games we're picking this week, and not a lot of dissension among the ranks with the games that we're picking. Guys, Paul not here to defend himself, but I'll kick it over to you to talk about this West Springfield-Lee matchup, which I think is going to be a good one.
Paul's currently at home sick, and we're pulling for him. However, it was actual sabotage on my part. I got him sick so that he couldn't make picks to finish out the rest of the season strong. Monica at 5-5 this week. What a big week for her. Phil's still learning the ropes. We won't give him too hard.
Hey, I got more wins last week than you did, buddy. I won 4 games. I just botched this Lee South County game. But speaking of Lee West Springfield, that's the only game we have any dissension on. I'm assuming you did what I did. You think Drizzy Augustus is going to be they're going to keep the reins tight on him, limit him to maybe 7-8 carries, if that, and really just try to save him for the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think they'll be hunting for a victory, although I think West Springfield is a kind of team that's been so up and down. I think coming off of a loss in which they scored more than 30 points, not sure if Lee's going to be prepared to be able to stop that kind of offensive scoring load, and because normally they give the ball to Drizzy, and that keeps their offense on the field so their defense doesn't have to try to make stops. And we've seen, West Springfield making some strides on defense with Coach J.T. Biddison. Bill Renner never focused on defense. It was all offense and passing. So we'll see if the defense shows up. I certainly think they will.
And that's going to be an interesting matchup. The Lee secondary is its strength, and even Eric Wright in the middle linebacker. That kid has to be a first or second team all-region linebacker. He's been absolutely outstanding. So Lee's got some playmakers in its defensive backfield, and West Springfield's going to spread it out and try and throw the ball, especially if it's a dry night, which weather is calling for it to be. So it'll be interesting to see how that matchup plays out. If Lee can force some turnovers, they might get the win.
You talk about first-teamers, outstanding, and playmakers. Just a few buzzwords I chose from your last soliloquy. You say those 3 words, and I'll show you a Monica Moore.
Well, thanks, BJ. All right, guys, another one that I'm really excited about is our Verizon Fios Game of the Week, Robinson versus Oakton. That's where we'll be on Friday night. All right, well, we'll show you what the PowerPoint ratings look like right now because they've changed a bit from last week. They'll probably be changing up until right at the end, lots of movement. But you see there's Stonebridge sitting at the top there for Division 5, closely followed by Robert E. Lee there. As you heard, Drizzy Augustus is back. We'll see what he does this week. I agree with you guys. I think they'll probably hold him back a little bit, and then Edison and Hayfield rounding out the top 4. And then on the other side of the coin, Division 6, W.T. Woodson sitting atop the field there, followed by Robinson, Lake Braddock, South County, and the others. You see Westfield there busting through in the 5th place position, followed by West Springfield, Chantilly, and then Fairfax there tying with Oakton in the 8th place position right now. We'll have the updates for you next week at what things look like after week 9. Well, before we go, we once again want to thank the folks that help make our program possible. Again, our good friends at CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs, and Craig Sturbutzel from Fat Boy Photos for those great photos that you see. You can get copies of this program at www.pressboxvideo.com and check out our webpage. Again, you can become a fan of the Fairfax Sports Network on our Facebook page and send us any comments, suggestions, and story ideas you have. Thanks so much for joining us. I want to wish everyone a happy and safe Halloween, and we'll see you again next week.